So I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning, just a totally normal day. You reach over, grab your phone, crack open your laptop. Maybe you're sitting down with that first cup of coffee to start your routine. And then within literally 3 seconds, you realize something terrifying. The skill that you have spent the last 10 years of your life mastering, the very thing that defines your career, just became completely obsolete. And not because a competitor outworked you, not because you made some massive mistake, but because a machine just learned how to do it faster, cheaper, and, let's be honest, probably better. 3 seconds. That is literally all it took. And suddenly this creeping, terrifying question starts crawling into the back of your mind. What exactly is my place in this world now? Because look, this isn't some sci-fi movie pitch anymore, right? This is happening. AI is writing, it's coding, it's designing, it's replacing entire departments as we speak. Millions of people are quietly carrying around this deep existential dread, this suffocating feeling that the world is just moving way faster than the human brain can even process. But here is the massive core irony that we are going to explore in this explainer. The machine that is causing all of this modern anxiety, it was never born from certainty. The flawless, terrifying artificial intelligence that's reshaping our entire civilization wasn't built by some room full of emotionless geniuses who were calmly predicting the future inside a master plan. Not even close. The technology behind today's AI was forged in pure panic. It was born from desperation, from sleepless nights, near bankruptcy, and profound, messy human fear. Today, we're tracing the story of NVIDIA, a company that accidentally built the foundation of modern AI, went from the absolute brink of death to wielding the power of a nation-state. And in the process, well, they might have created the very machines that are replacing us. Chapter 1. The Diner. Let's rewind the clock a bit. The year is 1993, and Silicon Valley is absolutely exploding. So personal computers are finally making their way into people's homes, but honestly, they are cold, they're lifeless, and they are purely practical, spreadsheets and word processors. But meanwhile, video games are slowly evolving into these immersive, emotional experiences. And 3 guys, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Preem, they become totally obsessed with a really bizarre idea. What if computers could actually feel alive? Not just be smarter, but visually alive. So they're sitting in this dimly lit roadside Denny's out in California, drinking terrible diner coffee, and they're talking about a future literally no one else on the planet can see. Now, you have to understand all 3 of these engineers had really stable, highly respectable careers. They basically had the lives that most of us spend decades trying to build. But as you might know, comfort can really quickly become a cage. It's that classic modern struggle of the golden handcuffs. Deep down, they knew that if they stayed safe, they were just going to slowly suffocate their own potential. So they made a decision that to anyone on the outside sounded completely and utterly irrational. They decided to leave everything behind to build a graphics chip company at a time when video games were still considered a complete niche absurdity. To get started, they managed to scrape together exactly $40,000. That was it. That was their entire emptied savings combined. There was absolutely no safety net here. No rich uncle, no backup plan if things went south, just a terrifying, blind leap into the dark. And, we love to romanticize this, right? We love the whole startup garage myth, the genius, the blind ambition. But really, imagine the psychological cost for a second. Imagine lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at your ceiling, and genuinely wondering if you just financially destroyed your family's entire future for a delusion. Imagine having to pretend to be confident in business meetings while you are quietly suffocating from panic on the inside. That kind of intense, relentless pressure, it fundamentally rewires a human being. Eventually, they managed to score a meeting with the legendary Sequoia Capital investor Don Valentine. And against all odds, he somehow agreed to give them $20 million. But right as he did, he gave them this sort of joking warning. He looked at them and said, "If you lose my money, I'll kill you." I mean, everyone laughed in the room, but underneath that humor was a very chilling reality check. The fear wasn't just abstract anymore. The stakes of failure had just become terrifyingly, undeniably personal. Chapter 2, 30 Days from Extinction. Okay, so this is the exact moment where that whole romantic illusion of the billion-dollar tech startup completely shatters. Because most of us just assume success is a straight line, right? You succeed, and then you succeed some more, all the way to the top. But the reality is so much uglier. Their very first major product, the NV1, was an absolute catastrophic failure. It was way over-engineered, wildly complicated, and way too expensive. It is the classic mistake that brilliant people make when they fall completely in love with their own intelligence instead of paying attention to reality. Listen to this. They shipped around 250,000 units, and almost all of them were returned.
Over 2 brutally painful years, they sold barely 1,000 chips. Think about the psychological devastation there. You've sacrificed literally everything, you've gambled your family's future, and the world looks at your life's work and just says, yeah, no thanks. Every single internal doubt starts screaming at you. You're not a visionary, you're just delusional.
At this point, they were totally running on fumes. In fact, an incredibly lucky, unexpected settlement from a canceled Sega contract is literally the only thing that kept them from shutting the doors forever. But the fear inside that office was completely palpable. Exhausted, severely sleep-deprived employees walked in every single day just to see this exact quote pinned up on the office wall, a literal countdown to their own extinction. Just imagine the emotional toll of staring at that sign while you're trying to write code, the sheer gripping anxiety of knowing you are exactly one bad week away from total ruin.
But here's the thing about humans. When survival is actually on the line, we evolve. Raw, unfiltered fear sharpened their focus like nothing else could. They finally stopped trying to show the world how incredibly smart they were, and they just built what people actually wanted. The Riva 128. It was simple, it was fast, and it was affordable. And you know what? They sold over 1 million units in a matter of months. They survived. But the thing about survival is, it leaves a permanent mark. When you scrape by and escape death like that, you stop fearing risk in the same way. That cage of comfort we talked about earlier, it's gone forever.
Chapter 3. The Unintentional AI Revolution.
So having survived the literal brink of extinction, NVIDIA's entire relationship with risk was completely recalibrated. And that psychological shift set the perfect stage for what was going to be their most dangerous and ultimately world-changing gamble yet. In 1999, NVIDIA introduced the GPU. Now, at the time, people thought it was just a toy for gamers. But let's break this down. Think of your standard CPU like a brilliant, hyper-precise strategist. It's like a private jet. It's super fast, but it only solves one problem at a time. But NVIDIA's GPU, it was more like a massive cargo fleet. It doesn't just do one thing incredibly fast, it does thousands of things simultaneously. Now, this massive parallel power was originally just designed to render millions of video game pixels on a screen, but as it turned out, it was the exact, perfect architecture needed for something infinitely bigger. The escalation of all this was super quiet at first. In 1999, they launched the GPU for gamers. Boom. Then in 2006, Jensen Huang becomes totally obsessed with the future of computing and introduces CUDA, which basically allowed researchers to use these gaming chips for really complex math. And initially, almost everyone completely ignores it. But hidden away in university labs, researchers start realizing that these chips are pure computational fuel. And then, the year 2012 hits. A neural network called AlexNet, which was trained entirely on NVIDIA hardware, completely dominates an international AI competition. Out of nowhere, the whole tech world just stops. Suddenly, AI is no longer a theoretical science project. It is inevitable. And the reason why this worked so perfectly, it's actually pretty simple. Deep learning basically requires a computer system to behave kind of like a human child. I mean, a kid learns what a cat is by looking at 1,000 different cats, right? Deep learning requires that same immense pattern exposure. It needs insane amounts of parallel computation to process all that data at once. And what handles massive parallel computation better than anything else? The exact same chip NVIDIA built to make video game explosions look cool. Jensen Huang made a terrifying pivot right then and there. He aggressively bet the entire company's future on AI, way before it was ever profitable. He essentially sacrificed the safety of the present to completely own the future. Chapter 4. The Trillion-Dollar Gold Rush. Now, fast forward to the moment ChatGPT drops. It was a massive, unprecedented cultural shockwave that hit the entire planet. The whole world woke up one morning and realized that almost every major AI breakthrough wasn't just built on clever software alone. It was built on hardware. It was built on physical chips. And NVIDIA? They owned basically all the roads. The demand became utterly hysterical. We're talking startups, billionaires, literal governments scrambling to get their hands on them. Chips were selling out faster than they could physically be printed, and NVIDIA's valuation just exploded. $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion. Think about that for a second. A company built by 3 terrified guys drinking bad coffee in a Denny's suddenly wielded the economic and geopolitical power of an entire nation-state. This right here was peak technological euphoria. But as we know, history always has a pattern. Human psychology gets incredibly dangerously blind when markets become euphoric. People stop asking rational questions. They stop wondering if this infinite growth is actually real. But the truth is, every single technological revolution in human history eventually collides headfirst with reality.
And NVIDIA's collision, it was looming right on the horizon.
Chapter 5. This Shockwave.
So the collision didn't actually come from a failure of the technology itself. It came from geopolitical tension. The United States government began restricting the export of NVIDIA's most advanced AI chips to China. Suddenly, these chips were being treated as strategic weapons because advanced AI capability was now tied directly to global power. So NVIDIA complied, offering restricted, less powerful versions of their chips to the Chinese market. And then the shockwave hit Silicon Valley. A relatively small tech team in China called DeepSeek released a model that completely froze the entire industry. See, the dominant belief in Silicon Valley was that you absolutely needed billions of dollars and unlimited, unrestricted NVIDIA compute power to win this race. But DeepSeek? They did more with less. They used those restricted, less powerful hardware setups to create a system that rivaled the ones built with trillion-dollar budgets. The realization across the industry was immediate and terrifying. If you can build cutting-edge AI this efficiently, then the entire world has massively overestimated how much hardware spending is actually necessary to get there. The market completely panicked. Hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap simply vanished in a single day. It was one of the largest single-day wealth wipeouts in human history. And the profound irony here is just inescapable, isn't it? NVIDIA's own chips powered the very breakthrough that proved to the world you might not actually need to buy as many of NVIDIA's chips. They accidentally fueled the exact disruption that threatened their own euphoric rise to the top. Chapter 6. What AI cannot replicate.
So take a look at this list. Are you on here? Writers, designers, programmers, students. If you are, you know exactly what this feels like. We aren't just terrified of losing our paychecks anymore. We are confronting something much deeper. We're confronting something that actually mirrors our own intelligence. AI isn't just a threat to human labor. It is a direct, undeniable challenge to our core identity. Because for generations, society has relentlessly conditioned us to build our entire sense of self-worth around our output. How efficient are you? What do you do for a living? How valuable are your specific skills to the market?
We have totally tied our identity entirely to our capability. And now, a cold, lifeless machine is outperforming us in the exact same areas we used to rely on for our self-worth. That right there, that is the root cause of this modern existential dread. It's the terrifying, quiet realization that if intelligence and output are no longer uniquely human traits, then maybe intelligence alone was never enough to define us in the first place.
But I want to leave you with a really profound truth that is hidden underneath all of this. The perfect, flawless AI systems that are reshaping our entire world right now, they were born from profoundly imperfect human emotions. Fear, desperation, curiosity, a primal, undeniable instinct to survive. NVIDIA didn't rise to the top because machines are perfect. They rose because 3 terrified guys in a Denny's diner gambled everything they had, failed miserably, panicked, adapted, and absolutely refused to quit. As the line between the virtual world and the real world continues to blur, maybe the most unsettling part of AI isn't actually what it can do. Maybe it's what it reveals about us. The future isn't being built by perfect algorithms. It's being built by flawed, terrified people who are making impossible decisions in the dark. And as you sit back and watch this next massive wave of AI automation wash over the world, I want you to ask yourself, will that messy, totally irrational, beautiful human instinct to just keep going despite the uncertainty? Will that emotional chaos remain the one algorithm machines can never, ever replicate?